epoko furizara ichienda kwainoenda.
Started the project in 2001 when I was touring Germany with another film of mine, The Trip to the Country. And when I came across this mission society, I was really surprised because there was a Q&A after the film, and I had in the room a room full of former missionaries. And they were asking me, we were talking about modernity, what is modernity? We were having this discussion, and I was going to ask them, how can you still be a missionary today after all we know that the missionary did all over the world? And they say, yes, we know, and we are trying to amend and to... And at the same time, they say, but you know, also, these people, some people say, well, the missionaries were people who received such this important gift. That was the faith. And that gift was so big for them that they couldn't just keep it for themselves. They needed to share it with other people. And I said, but if the other people don't want to accept your gift, did you have to force that on them and to even kill them to have that? And they say, well, that's why we have to really question who we are. So that was for me the start, the beginning of this question. And they said, oh, if you want, you can come into our archive. You have so many archives to start working on the project. And so I went to the archive. I couldn't speak German, but I had a producer who was German, so we went there a few times. And coincidentally, 2003, the German television was making a films to commemorate the 100th anniversary of the genocide in Namibia. And so Arte commissioned a film by a German, and then they supported the project that I had, and it was for me the occasion to really go back, look at 150 years of common history between Europe and really try to help people really understand how all these were intertwined. So it was almost a kind of 2 or 3 years research to go to Germany, go to Namibia, go to South Africa, go to Togo, Benin. So it was really a big endeavor to try to unfold all these different entanglements, and it was a long process.
Now, I'm going to ask a couple of questions, but you guys should be thinking of your questions, and if you don't have one, then I have another one. So, but anyway, the thing that I'm thinking about too is that I know a lot. I know for myself, in terms of my history, how I learned history in college and all that, the understanding of colonialism in terms of the French assimilation approach and the British, something they used to call indirect rule. Has anybody else ever heard of that? Yeah, so we sort of know that a little bit, but we really don't know much. I mean, at least I didn't know much about the German, their brutal colonial legacy. I didn't know about that. You know, the legacy in Namibia and the Cameroon, and so I think that the film is important in that way, in that probably, I'm thinking that maybe just the shorter time of the German, colonial period, or maybe just the fact that it was overshadowed by what they then did later on. So what do you think, why is it, and was that a part of what you're trying to do, bring us up to speed on knowing all of that, the German past as well?
Well, I think that we should also really maybe thank the Germans, because they are the only European country who had the guts to look at their past. We were forced after the Second World War to look at what they did with the Holocaust. But some historians, some people in Germany said, well, we cannot just start in 1940 or so. Let's go all the way back. And that's how they opened all the archives. But they were not more brutal than the others. All the colonists were the same. The brutality of colonialism was not worse from one place to the other, as people are pretending. Whether it's Belgium, whether it's the French, the Italian, and today when you see the Israeli, this kind of brutality is colonialism, and you cannot. It's just there, you know, and so I could make this film, and I was even funded by the Germans who gave the money to do that. So that's otherwise I wouldn't have been able to do that, because when I was looking for funding in France, they would say, "Oh, forget about colonialism. All that is behind. Let's not talk about that. Let's look ahead. Let's do this. All this blah blah." So it's a fact. You cannot just colonize other people, dehumanize them, and think that you are treating them. No, it's something terrible, and there cannot be any exception. And by doing this film, actually, I try to also link it with how the religion totally destructured and completely shaped the way people were thinking. For me, it's really a sign, you know. Our God, in my place, the same word we call the soil, the ground, is the same word for God, actually. So people were really, it's etymologically, you cannot, so the film, this film really for me was an opportunity to really deconstruct all these elements of colonialism and say also that the colonialism is not over, and we are continuing to fight and to struggle with all the consequences of that. And in West Africa, when the Mali, Niger government are continuing fighting to kick out Western interests from their country, is because the system that has been put in place is so brutal and so strong that you can have a continent with so many wealth, but wherever you go, to Congo, to Cameroon, people don't have water, people don't have electricity, the basic things that are necessary to have a decent life and to allow people to be thinking, to be projecting to the future. People don't have access to that, and it doesn't seem to bother anybody. With the solar now, you can have electricity everywhere. Right. But what is preventing people to develop solar energy all over the African continent? And that's how you live on the continent, almost in so many countries. So how can you, when you live like that, be able to plan, to think, to reflect, to write? I mean, it's keeping people under a kind of perpetual underdevelopment when the continent is so rich in so many resources.
One other thing, I mean, this is a quick thing, is I was glad to see, and I never heard of, Joseph Merrick.
Yes.
And that legacy.
From Jamaica.
Yeah, from Jamaica, but working in Cameroon. Yeah. And also Dr. Kamita, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it was so amazing in the film and all throughout. And the work that they're doing through missions seems like it's kind of like a misfire. The missions are thinking that they're doing this and that, but always this civilizing notion is a part of it.
Absolutely.
But then you have these guys who also within the mission are doing things that, as Dr. Kabita says at the end of the day, the word takes another turn. And so while somebody may have meant it for ill, somebody else turns out that it's good. So I was wondering if that was the idea of showing that this missionary, intention is multifaceted, it's complicated, and it takes a lot of different turns.
Actually, I discovered that while making the film. Personally, I'm not Christian. I'm totally atheist. I believe in God, but I don't believe in their God. But I followed them. I followed the reasoning, and it was really fascinating to see how the same words can be used by both the oppressor and the oppressed, and how it completely changed. And the whole that also the complexity of the word of God, and that was really fascinating to follow them and to see how the missionaries were so instrumental into building the Nazi, the connection with the Nazi regime, and how many of them subscribe to that when they are supposed to be the word of God. So all these Western construction. For me, it was really so incredible to see that where the church that was supposed to be, or the mission that was supposed to be the place of good, turned into becoming the place where they crafted the whole colonial strategy, policy to link economics, the mission, the state, so that those who were in favor of the colonization would find a really well-researched book that was detailing everything. I would discover them gradually when I was researching. And it was the most complicated thing was how to tell this story from the beginning of the 19th century and see how all this came together to the Second World War. And also what we realized was also that many people who participated into the genocide of the 904-907, their children were instrumental in the Third Reich, and they were the kind of continuation of the family and family history.
That was amazing. But that idea of interweaving your own personal insights along with all these historians and archivists made a really interesting balanced piece. You should be proud. It's amazing.